I'm 63 years old, and it might interest you to know that in the Bible there is some verses that say that the priests could retire at the age of 60. I'm not planning to ever retire in my service from the Lord, but I am planning eventually to retire from my vocational ministry as a pastor. I don't want to be the type of person that I'm just kind of marking off the days until that retirement comes. I want to finish well my race of faith. In terms of how I came to know Christ, I had a lot of pain in my heart. My parents were divorced when I was quite young, and I felt empty and hurting inside because of my father's absence. And so I tried to fill that void by alcohol and doing various kinds of drugs. I acted out in class to try to get attention, various strategies to try to fill that void that was in my heart. Between my junior and senior year in high school, I was sort of at the end of myself. So I hopped in my mom's car and I started heading towards the east. And while I was driving along, I had the radio cranked up and I was listening to a song called Bohemian Rhapsody. Well, it began to rain, and it began to rain extremely hard in this car. And I was listening to this music, and the rain was coming down so hard that I could barely see out. The windshield wipers were going very quickly. And that Bohemian Rhapsody sort of faded out. And then on that same radio station came on the song, Prepare Ye the Way of the Lord. And it was like the rain stopped and the sun was shining so beautifully through those clouds. Suddenly I just felt the presence of God in that car. I mean, the presence of God just flooded that car. When I got home, I told my mom, I've been out driving your car, and I just want you to know, Mom, I'm going to live the rest of my life for Jesus Christ. An influential person in my life was my grandfather, and he was a pastor. He was honest with me about the fact that it wouldn't be easy. If there was anything that you could possibly do other than serving the Lord as a pastor, then you might want to consider that. But since the Lord had his hand on me, and I felt like the Lord had called me to serve him as a vocation, it felt like that was the calling on my life. And so this year brings to fruition 35 years of being ordained as a pastor. I was ordained in Wichita, Kansas in August of 1987, but people did not want a single man to be their pastor. So my friend Tim and I decided to go check out some singles groups. We always laugh about the fact that the bottom line is we were going to go searching for chicks.
I think I introduced myself to him because I was already at the church when he came, and I remember he looked really sharp. He had on a suit, and when I introduced myself, he actually stood up and shook my hand.
So that was the beginning and the introduction of my meeting Debbie.
And so then we just kind of continued to get to know each other through singles group events.
Tim was at my house, and he was going to ask Debbie out.
And so he called, and he did a really great job, and I really hated to kind of turn him down, but I really wasn't interested in him. I was interested in Les.
And so Tim hung up the phone, and he said, "You never believe what Debbie said. She said she was attracted to you. She had thrown me a 30th birthday party. She'd done a lot of other things to kind of drop hints that she was attracted to me. I didn't pick up on a single one of them."
So Les found out that I liked him, and pretty soon after that he asked me out.
And she said yes, and the rest, as they say, is history. I started on January 1st, 1993 as the associate pastor of the First Baptist Church in Independence. That was a significant place for us because that's where our first child was born. His name is Keith. What's she doing? We went from Independence, Kansas to Gypsum, Kansas. It is the place where we enjoyed the birth of our second child. What are you doing, Julie? How are you, my little girl? That was the first time I served as a pastor. It's called a solo pastor in a rural church, which means that in addition to the normal everyday activities, I would do things like design and print the bulletin, answer the phone, and even sit on a dunk tank when they had sort of a little festivity out on the lawn. And I was invited to McPherson, where I served as a senior pastor. And there was a great desire on the heart of a lot of people for vision development and vision casting and strategic planning. All of these things sort of made me feel inadequate. But the Lord continued to assure me that He would be with me, and He was faithful to help me accomplish many things for His kingdom while I was in McPherson. I was able to begin to trust the Lord and be more authentic in my speaking and my preaching. It was a beautiful thing that I was able to kind of carry that from McPherson to where I am currently serving here in Bluffton. It's sort of like halfway between Gypsum and McPherson in terms of size and administration and various things, but I was able to take with me that ability to just stand up and talk to the people. And in terms of just kind of putting together my message, I just kind of have to continue to maintain this conversation with the Lord. I've said this prayer so many times it's beyond belief. God, what do you want to say to your people this next week? Don't give up. Don't get discouraged. Keep pressing on because God is faithful.
How do you feel about your current church secretary?
She is amazing.
First Baptist Church, this is Debbie.
My current church secretary is my wife, Debbie. It's such a blessing to be able to see her and work with her, and I determined from the get-go not to try to dictate to her.
You know, I've never really seen myself as a pastor's wife per se. I'm just kind of like Debbie, and I just kind of do my thing. And he's always been really good about not putting any pressure on me about doing certain things because I am the pastor's wife. I've just kind of got to be me.
The most valuable thing for me has been that my two children, Keith and Julie, love Jesus, and they love His church. And they want to follow the Lord. And they have both married people who love Jesus. To me, that is the most awesome gift that anyone could receive. And I rejoice in that fact. Ready to head home for lunch?
Yep.
January of 2023 will be 30 years actually serving in pastoral ministry. So what do the next few years look like? I want to finish strong in the strength of the Lord and the power of His might as I seek to conclude this chapter of vocational Christian ministry as a pastor, and then begin the next season of serving the Lord in whatever God has for me to serve Him in that season.